Welcome back to InBusiness. It is all about Ben Bernanke and these lowered growth expectations. Let's bring in Ethan Harris. He's the head of North American Economics at Bank of America-Merrill Lynch Global Research, and he joins us now from there. Ethan, you've had a few moments to read through these comments. The initial reaction in the marketplace seems to be one of disappointment, but the expectations were so high here. What could Ben Bernanke have delivered?
Well, I think unfortunately people were hoping that he would deliver an immediate announcement about some kind of quantitative easing plan and hint at that. But I think that the Fed is still a good ways away from that. And so what he did today was he's basically trying to buy time. He's acknowledging the economy's weaker, saying that they've got policy options going forward, but not really giving a hint of when they might act. So he's trying to buy time until the Fed has a better sense of whether they really need to go to these new unconventional policies.
And yet he does indicate that they're talking about possibly acting and that they would if things get worse. Why isn't that heartening investors a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that because the expectations were so high, there's a lot of talk about how he might actually announce a policy change today, which I thought there was almost a zero probability of, and so he didn't come even close to that. But there is an important part of the speech there. You look at later in the speech, he basically draws a line in the sand. He says if we see any hint of deflation, we are going to be very aggressive, and we're not going to tolerate a further decline in growth. So the economy's already slowed down. The Fed is not ready to accept that we're in a growth recession or a period of sustained sub-trend growth. So they're not ready to admit that yet. But if they do start to see that, he's saying we will act. And so there's a backstop that he's talking about here. We just haven't hit the backstop yet.
So if he's buying time, what is he buying time for? What is the bazooka in the pocket, the nuclear option?
Well, unfortunately, he doesn't have a bazooka in his pocket. What he's got right now is, kind of a 22 caliber rifle. I mean, what they have now is, they can drive down long-term interest rates. They can try to encourage some confidence in the economy. But they're not ready to really do the big steps, which a lot of them require coordinated policy with the fiscal authorities. For example, if the Fed were to increase its lending to the private sector directly, that's something they'd have to negotiate with the fiscal authorities. So those kind of nuclear options where the Fed kind of moves outside its normal functioning really aren't on the table now unless things get a lot worse.
Our chief economics editor, Mike McKee, who broke these headlines for us at the top of the hour, points out that he felt there was an emphasis being put on what the corporate community needs to do to contribute here. If we're not going to get help from Congress, we're not necessarily going to get help in the immediate term from the Fed beyond what they've already done. What is it that he's asking for here?
Well, I think that he's pinpointing the exact problem in the economy right now. The corporate sector is in good shape. Their balance sheets are in good shape. They can easily access the credit markets. They just don't have any confidence right now. And he's kind of hoping that they will, over time, kind of come out of their hole and start hiring and start investing at a significant rate.
That's kind of a circular argument, though, isn't it? I mean, it brings us back to, well, if Congress isn't going to give some clarity on policy and the Fed isn't saying exactly what they can do, then how do you increase confidence?
Well, I think that it would help a lot if we could get clarity out of Washington on tax policy right now. I think that's kind of a sword hanging over the markets, this fear that we could actually get across-the-board tax hikes at the end of this year as the Bush plan expires. So I think that, some clarity out of Washington would be a big help. Unfortunately, we're in election season. There doesn't seem to be a lot of long-term thinking going on in Washington right now.
All right. Thank you, Ethan, for jumping in there and giving your quick reaction and analysis. I appreciate it.